It is clear that Sly drove it to the extreme.
He's in his 70s.
Yeah. I mean, should he still be alive?
No. It's not uncommon to get injured, but I thought it was too much.
Sylvester Stallone has cheated death more times than anyone can count. He's been beaten, abandoned, and pushed to the absolute edge. His mother tried to end him before he was even born.
My mother would say, the only reason you're here is because the hanger didn't work. Said, you know, if there was really something wrong with your brain, I would have definitely opened up the window and put you on the windowsill and let you freeze. It's, you know, when you're young, you're kind of naive and foolish, go, maybe everyone's mother is like this. I never really hung out with other people, so I didn't know what I...
He's been shot at, beaten within an inch of his life, and lost the one thing he could never recover. But one moment hit him harder than any punch he ever took in the ring. Before Stallone was a Hollywood icon, he was just a kid fighting to survive. His own mother didn't want him. She told him bluntly, the only reason you're here is because the hanger didn't work.
What I wanted to do was just find something that would make me heroic. I was so caught up in unreality, non-reality, fiction. I would spend untold hours in theaters, and I don't care what it was, just sit there and watch this thing 5, 6 times. That's the life I wanted to lead. That's the ideals, grandeur, that's hard work and triumphs over evil. Always had hero worship. You know, I wish I could be the guy who saved the bus full of children. That's who I want to be. I want to be the guy who saves people.
That wasn't a cruel joke. That was his reality. From the moment he was born, he was an unwanted burden. He wasn't held, wasn't nurtured.
My life was definitely on the wane.
I literally had nothing. So I lived in bus stations. I slept in alcoves. I had a coat, and the coat was my house. Every day, just robbery, physical attacking, cars coming over curbs, people throwing acid on you.
I was emotionally, spiritually, physically bankrupt.
Instead, he was treated like a mistake that just refused to go away. His mother was harsh and unloving, and his father violent and unpredictable. When he cried as a baby, he wasn't comforted. He was ignored. A botched delivery paralyzed the nerves in his face, giving him the slurred speech and drooping expression that would later define his look. But at the time, it only made him a target for mockery. Other kids didn't see him as one of them. They saw him as an outsider, a freak, and they made sure he knew it. At just 11 years old, he ran away from home, chasing after the mother who had abandoned him. He thought she might take him in, that maybe deep down she loved him, but he was wrong. The courts forced him back into his father's abusive household, but by then the damage was done. He had learned one thing: no one was coming to save him. With nowhere to go and no one to turn to, he ended up on the streets of New York. He wasn't just poor, he had nothing, no bed, no roof, no safety. Some nights he curled up in a bus station wrapping his coat around himself for warmth. That coat wasn't just clothing, it was his house. It was the only thing protecting him from the cold, from the hunger, from the people lurking in the dark. But the streets had their own rules, and he was fresh meat. He was jumped, robbed, even had acid thrown on him by a random attacker. He had no way to fight back. All he could do was survive. Some nights, he went to sleep on an empty stomach, praying he'd wake up the next morning. And when the hunger got too strong, he'd wander past restaurants, inhaling the scent of food he couldn't afford. He could feel his body getting weaker, but he refused to beg. He had his pride, even when there was nothing left to be proud of. And still he held on to one thing, a dream. Hollywood, movies, becoming a star. But reality didn't care about dreams. When he finally scraped together the courage to walk into an audition, he wasn't even given a chance. You slur, your face droops, you'll never be a leading man. Agents didn't see potential, they saw a failure. a guy who wasn't good looking enough, wasn't articulate enough, wasn't worth their time. They laughed him out of the room every single time, but Stallone refused to give up, because even if the world saw nothing in him, he saw something in himself. Out of options, he stopped auditioning and started writing. He poured his pain into a script, Rocky. Hollywood loved it, but there was one catch. They wanted the script, not him. They offered him $360,000, a fortune for a man who had $106 in his bank account and had just sold his own dog for food. But he refused. He risked it all. And when Rocky hit theaters, it didn't just succeed. It became a cultural phenomenon. The world saw Stallone as a champion, but at the moment he should have been celebrating, he was haunted by the one thing he couldn't win, his mother's approval. At the Oscars, he invited her to watch the biggest moment of his life. She refused to come. Unless he invited her hairdresser, Stallone was only given one front row seat, and it certainly wasn't for someone he had never met. His mother didn't come in the end. Despite his achievements, his mother never saw him as someone special. Hollywood saw Stallone as an action hero, but he wasn't just playing one, he was living it. In Rocky IV, he told Dolph Lundgren to hit him for real. One punch stopped his heart. He woke up in the ICU surrounded by nuns. Doctors weren't sure if he'd survive. The impact had caused his heart to slam against his ribs, mimicking the effects of a car crash. His heart had swelled, pressing dangerously against the sac surrounding it. If doctors hadn't intervened, he could have died in his sleep. And that wasn't his only brush with death. Broke his neck, fractured his spine, nearly died multiple times. He threw himself into his stunts, refusing to use doubles. His ribs were shattered. His body was bruised. He worked through injuries that would leave other men hospitalized for months. His own family begged him to stop, but Stallone had one belief: pain was the price of greatness, and he was willing to pay it every single time. But pain was nothing compared to what came next. His son Sage Stallone was found dead, alone. His body had been lying there for days before anyone discovered him. Stallone had fought through a lifetime of suffering. He had survived the streets, the rejections, the near-death stunts, but nothing prepared him for this. He had played heroes his entire life, but now for the first time there was no enemy to fight, no script to rewrite, no stunt to undo the loss. For the first time in his life, Stallone wasn't sure if he could get back up. Still drowning in grief, Stallone got news that shook him even further. His daughter needed life-saving heart surgery. He had lost his son. He couldn't lose her too. He sat in the hospital, helpless. For the first time in his life, the man who had fought every battle with his fists could do nothing but wait, nothing but pray. His daughter later said, "That was the moment I realized that sometimes the strongest people in your life aren't always as strong as you think." For the first time, Stallone saw the truth. The people who mattered most weren't in a movie, they were in front of him. Years later, Stallone returned to the city where it all began, Philadelphia. He took his daughters to the famous Rocky steps. That's when they did something he never expected. They recited his own words back to him. Word for word, they repeated the most iconic speech from Rocky Balboa. "The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward." That's when he realized the lesson he had spent his life teaching the world had just been taught back to him. Stallone has gone through things not many can survive. He's been shot at, beaten, left for dead. He's lost everything and had to rebuild himself more times than most people can count. But there's one thing about him that will never change, no matter how hard life hits him. He will always get back upper. And if you love inspiring stories of resilience, struggle, and success, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more short documentaries that will keep you entertained and motivated, because the best stories are the ones that remind us to keep moving forward. See you next time.